Hey, welcome whiskey lovers, whiskey newbies, or people who just generally like watching me do dumb stuff on the internet. Glad you're here on the Matt Moscona YouTube channel. I encourage you to subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate it very much. You would be doing me just a humongous favor if you would hit the subscribe button. And I'm letting you watch me drink alcohol, so as a return, you could hit the subscribe button, and I would appreciate that very much. So, this is the second episode that we've done here on a whiskey review, and something that I wanted to, and by the way, I was really thrilled with the feedback on the first one, so I'll keep doing it because it seems like it's something that's of interest to a lot of people. So we'll keep talking about whiskeys that I enjoy drinking and some that I don't. But I was really happy because so many of the people that gave me feedback from the first episode were people that said, hey man, look, I've always just kind of been like the Jack and Coke guy or the Jim Beam guy. I just never graduated from that. I always hear I have friends maybe who drink whiskeys or fine bourbons, but I've never really known how or what to get into. So I love that because understand that I'm not that far removed from that stage. But when you come here, you're going to get zero judgment from me. Like, I'm not a connoisseur. I'm not someone who goes to like tons of tastings or knows just the intricacies of distilling. I just drink a lot of different stuff, and I'll tell you what I like and some of the nuances that I find in these things. And my general rule of thumb is find what you like and drink it because they're spirits. They're supposed to be enjoyed. So find what you like and drink it. So what I wanted to do today is sample a couple of bottles from the Jefferson's collection. And in part because what I wanted to do was, and one of them I like very much, and one of them I don't. And I wanted to sort of show that it's possible that just because the same distiller makes something that you like very much, they may make something that you don't like. And also just sort of a piece of advice if you're just getting started on like a cautionary tale of when to buy, what to buy, or maybe some advice on how to pick what to buy. So first is the Jefferson's Reserve Very Old Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, very small batch. I'll show you the label so you can see it. There's the Jefferson's Reserve, and then you'll notice that the differentiation here is the very old. Right there is the differentiating factor here. It's a very small batch. They're all individually labeled and numbered, so you can see right there. This is barrel 3 or batch 333. Bottle, 2067. I'm looking at it backwards, so forgive me if I got that wrong. So anyway, so it's a very small batch, and I want to show you that because this is the very same thing, but it's the Prichard Hill Cabernet Cask finish. So check out the label. It's the same thing. You'll see the very old, very small batch. It's the same aged bourbon, but it's finished in Cabernet casks from Prichard Hill. So you can see the same thing here. This is batch number 3 and bottle 4151. You can see the label right there, batch 3, bottle 4151. So they're all individually labeled. So understand that this and this at one point were essentially the same thing. This, however, they took it after it was aged and further aged it in Cabernet casks. So they took red wine casks and poured their bourbon in it to age it further to get some of that red wine flavor and notes. So you'll get some of the things that you get in red wine, like the dark berries, chocolate, stuff like that. So you get a different flavor to it. So understand, I hope the lighting isn't terrible so you can see the difference, just the difference in the coloration. I mean, it might be tough to see here with that camera, but anyway, you can see this one is certainly darker than this one, in large part because of how it's finished. You're going to have that red wine and it's aged longer. So you'll notice a lot of times the coloration is going to be different. So I'm going to pour a little bit of each and I'll explain to you what I taste in them, what I like and what I don't like. So I'll just leave these here. So just to be very clear, and so for those that don't know much about Jefferson's has been around since 1997. I'm not trying to give you a history lesson on the company, but the point is they're not like a super old distillery, but I really like a lot of what they do, which is why, in part, I bought this. But more on that in just a second. So let me start with the very old, very small batch. Okay, maybe if it's poured, you can see the color difference a little better there. You can certainly see how the Prichard Hill is darker. So anyway, we'll start with getting the nose. You'll see people do that often. They'll get the nose if you want. You smell it, and you just kind of get what taste and what you smell in it. So I mentioned the last time as well that I don't like something that's overbearing. That just doesn't fit my sensibility. So this is very light. You get a hint of the oak barrel that it's finished in, which isn't overwhelming because I don't like feeling like I'm licking tree bark. So this is generally something that I feel like I'm going to like a lot. It has such a sweet finish. It's not hot. I don't like things that are hot that burn right on the way down. One of my favorite things about this is that this is so easy to drink. If you want to graduate from, if you're past like your $15, $18 bottles, fifths, and you move up to something that's a little bit like if maybe you're in that Maker's Mark, Knob Creek, Bullet range, but then you're looking to take the next step. There's some in between that we'll talk about. Like I like Basil Hayden's a lot. I love Angel's Envy. But if you're going to go a step further and get into like the $65 per bottle, or I believe actually at Calandro's in Baton Rouge, they have this on the shelf for $54.99. So you can buy it under $60. I look for value often whenever I'm buying because I want something that I'm really going to enjoy that I don't have to pay out the wazoo for. And this certainly qualifies. The drinkability on this is magnificent. I never recoil. It's never hard to drink. I can drink it neat or on the rocks, and I would say choose whichever you want. But it's very smooth. It has a sweet finish. It's flavorful. This is one of my favorites. It is something that I will always, always, always keep on my bar. So, with that being the case, I figured, okay, well, it's the Jefferson Reserve, very old, very small batch. And I had a bottle of this a while back, and I loved it. And so, like I mentioned, I always keep it on my bar, which you can tell it's almost empty because I drink it. And so I was starting to experiment with different things when I started finding things I liked. So what I did was I noticed this. I said, oh, look, that's the very old, very small batch. And it's a Prichard Hill Cabernet Cask finish. So, wow, I love red wine. So I'm thinking, so they take what I already love and they finish it in red wine barrels. I'm thinking, man, or casks. I'm like, that's a great idea. But a lot of things go well together. Peanut butter and jelly go well together. I like ice cream and I like meatballs, maybe not necessarily going well together. Now, the odd thing about this is that there are a lot of very creative whiskeys that I like that are finished in either, wine casks or rum casks or even like, beer barrels. Like whiskey makers have gotten so creative and some of them are fantastic. So I really just assumed I would love this because I love red wine. I love what Jefferson's does. Jefferson's has a very large, relatively large collection of options. Before I sip it, I'm going to do this. A little sip of water to clean the palate. So if you're ever doing that, you're doing a tasting, crackers are really good. Room temperature water. If you get water that's too cold, sometimes they say it can numb some of your senses. So sip of water is generally good in between. Okay, so you can definitely smell some of the red wine, which I really, really enjoy. It's not overbearing, which is good as well. So we're so far so good, right, with what I like. When I sip this, though, it's very hard to explain, but there's an aftertaste that goes along with the finish. So when you take the sip, and you'll have the flavor in your mouth, on your palate, and that flavor will last. That's your finish. It almost tastes like it's sour, like it's gone bad, if you were to drink bad wine, like rancid wine. It's a very distasteful taste. It's very distasteful, and I hate saying that because I like Jefferson's very much. But every time I try this, and I've tried it in so many ways. I've tried it neat. I've tried it on the rocks. I've tried it in cocktails, suggested cocktails, and no matter how I drink it, I can't escape that taste in the finish. I'll give it another go, and I'll try to explain it to you better. But remember, with this, the whole point that I like so much about the very old, very small batch is its drinkability. Like, it doesn't matter how sophisticated a whiskey or bourbon drinker you are. If you want to throw that on ice, I'd say anybody could drink that. Like, if you were going to a party or going to a bar and you wanted to pick something that you knew you could drink and you wouldn't have to make a face every time you sipped it, like, this tastes fantastic, and you could try that and be perfectly fine every time. I'll give this another go. It's there every time in the finish. It just doesn't taste good. So I could try to give you a much more detailed answer, but it's one of those things where when it's in your mouth, it's okay. When you sip it and then it finishes, when you talk about something that has like a bad aftertaste, that's how I would describe the Prichard Hill. So I've had this bottle for some time now, and look, relatively to something that I got, I think, in January, just a few months ago. I drink this all the time. It's been very hard for me to try to finish this bottle. So at some point I will, but with that, what I'd like to do is give, if you're new to the whiskey game, like a small piece of advice. It's great to sort of to identify what you like, and then to maybe start to get a little adventurous, to try new things. It's always good to try new things. But what I would recommend, so like I went to the store and spent, I believe it was $50 on this, and I can't drink it. I don't like it at all. So it just sits on my bar. So I would have much rather have spent $55 on this, on another bottle of that, or something that I really enjoy a lot, like a $35 bottle of Basil Hayden's, or 2 bottles of something like that, instead of this, which is just sitting on my bar, basically looking like it might be something worth tasting. So what I would recommend to you is, when you go out to a restaurant or you're with buddies, you're at a bar, and you want to get adventurous, maybe try something, like sample it at a bar. Get it on the rocks to see if it's something that you may like, and spend $8 or $12 on a cocktail, and if you like it, then go buy a bottle, instead of going out splurging, buying the bottle of something that you may well not like. And I made that mistake several times when I was first getting in to drinking different whiskeys. So sample it if you can before you buy it. I would definitely recommend that. And the other thing too is, you can take my advice on things. You can find all different types of blogs and videos and stuff like that. But you got to find what you like. And that's what I said at the very beginning. Like, there's